So what are we going to cover? We are going to cover a very important, we could call it as a tool or a technique, what we call it as a BEI, behavioral event interviewing, and competency-based interviewing. We're going to look at what it is, how it is done, and we're going to look at what are the do's, what are the don'ts, and how is it supposed to be done in the right way. What is the purpose of this BEI, and why is it being used so frequently in the organizations today, and what is the kind of a use for it? We will actually do practically. We'll go through the BEI and CBI and see for ourselves, experience for ourselves the effectiveness of this tool, right? And the way we are going to do is that we have already, Vilma has mailed 2 job descriptions, and she's also made some competencies where she's also given definition of a competency and the behavioral indicators as well, and also the rating scale. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a candidate, one candidate as a interviewee, and we'll have a panel of 2 interviewers, so that makes 3, and the rest will be observers, and they will observe. I will allocate what they need to observe. So what are we going to do? So the first position we're going to take is head of L&D. Now in this, the time allocated will be about 30 minutes, and the panel would be Monali. Monali, are you there? Monali. And who else? Vilma, we talked about, I just forgot. Siddharth, are you there? Or Nikhil?
Yes, I'm there.
You're there. Okay, I'll put you on the other panel. All right. Nikhil.
Yes, ma'am.
The 2 interviewers would be Nikhil and Monali. The candidate, Vikram, are you ready to be the candidate? Okay.
Absolutely. Always ready.
And the position is head L&D. Rhymes well with you? Okay.
God.
All right.
Yeah,
and the rest of them will be observers. Now, the competencies, what we are going to do is, in the first panel, we will look at 3 competencies. First of all, the rest of them will be observers. Vilma, do we need to break into a room, or we can do it in the main hall?
We can do it in the main hall.
We can do it in the main hall.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So in the first place, before even we get into any behavioral event interviewing kinds and what is it, why is it, let us do a quick kind of an interview for 10 minutes with this panel, saying the position for which the candidate is coming or being interviewed is head L&D. Okay, now the observers will have to observe, and please list down, make 2 columns, just list down the questions. What kind of questions are they asking, and some of the responses what the candidate is giving. All right. Okay. So we will have a quick, first we'll just have a quick 10 minutes interview. I'm not giving any instructions. All right. Let us observe. The observers need to really watch everything, hear what they say, what they do, what they ask, and then let us then come back to do some kind of a reflection on the entire process. Are you all okay? Are you all on the same page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
So who are the 2 interviewers who are going to interview Vikram?
It's okay.
Huh? Nick, who is it?
Monali.
Monali and
Nikhil.
Nikhil, you have the position for which Vikram has applied?
Yes, it is head of L&D in
Head
insurance
L&D.
vertical.
All right. Now, so you take about couple of minutes. You must have already looked at it. Please write your questions. Now, Vikram is all ready. He's already saying, hey, I'm ready for this position and I know I'm going to make it. Okay. So the observers will just listen and please write plenty of notes, observations, because everybody. So how many observers do we have?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The rest will be.
Left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Fine. So I want 2 observers to write down what Monali is asking, Monali is saying, okay, and 3 observers what Nikhil is asking. Done?
Okay.
So that there is more focus, because what happens is then, observers can spend a lot of time focusing on one interviewer. Done? Okay?
Just a quick
Yes,
question in terms of observation. What are the various parameters we are observing?
Yeah, the parameters right now. So if you are observing Nikhil, okay, if he has made some opening question, okay, what are the questions he is asking? All right, just write down everything and some of the responses what Vikram is saying.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, guys. I will observe Nikhil.
Sure, ma'am.
So Suruchi and Leena can observe Nikhil, and Ram and Siddharth can observe Vikram.
Right now 3:20. Okay. Now
hello.
close the interview at 3:30. Done?
Hello.
Yeah, Ram.
The rest of
actually,
us the rest of us will keep muted so that they can then Vikram can respond and the others. Yeah.
Yes.
Guys, I'm facing the network issue. I'm getting logged out again and again.
Okay.
I'm still trying for better network, but I may not be able to observe continuously. I will still do it. I will write down my notes, but yeah, there is some problem here.
So I hope the position is clear, and so Vikram is come for an interview for the position of head L&D, and Monali and Nikhil will have to are interviewing. They are the hiring or the selection managers. I have not given any kind of instructions right now. Okay, so you are the selecting or the hiring manager. Got it? Okay. And you have your JD there. So how will you go about? What are you going to test for? It's a free, no instructions. How are you going to go about? Yep.
So shall we begin now, or
yes.
we need to wait?
No,
Okay.
no. You want to begin? Yes, because you are not season. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Vikram. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you very much for taking out your time today.
Good afternoon. Thanks.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Being there. I'll just brief you what exactly the discussion is all about. We are interviewing this position for the head of L&D with one of the insurance division of our company. And I'll be setting the expectation. We have screened your profile, okay, and we have gone through it. Lot of competencies, what we feel is required, is already aligned, and we have gone through a CV as well. So Vikram, my first question to you is basically in your current organization, why don't you just give us some example how you have identified the training need analysis of your current company in the insurance vertical. So now the post-COVID, the overall process has automated. Now human intervention has been limited. There has been a lot of online policy generation. So how have you enabled business in terms of aligning those skill set, okay, which is adapting to a new technological intervention, identifying those gaps with the huge feet on street guys, and then executed or designed a program in those lines?
Yes, I think very relevant question. First of all, I would like to take a step back to say whether it's COVID or pre-COVID or post-COVID, principally our talent development program revolves around foundational competency framework. And that's very important, whether it's for sales organization or for operations. And since we spoke about sales, I'll talk about sales only. So the foundational bedrock is competency mapping of each of the roles in sales, whether it's agency vertical or whether it's bank assurance vertical. Each one of the vertical is selling the insurance product. But it's very important that we benchmark it to the competency framework, which is at a, let's say, at a beginner's level. And then you also have people managers, sales managers who are managing the feet on street. Their competency framework is again benchmarked separately, followed by regional sales manager or head of sales. So for each of the role, the competency has been identified. We have a competency framework in place. The only difference, sir, is that pre-COVID, the intervention was, as per the traditional way of developing human resource. But COVID has taught us that the technology can supplement in the training efforts. That's the only difference, is that instead of instructor-led training, you have virtual instructor-led training. Instead of a classroom, you have an e-classroom. I think the shift which COVID has taught us is from a training which is driven by a L&D department to more of a meta training. And when I say meta training, it really means ensuring that you teach people how to teach themselves instead of it being a teacher-led all the time. So the ecosystem has changed. That is one important shift which has happened. Yeah.
Good that the paradigm shift is completely relevant in the industry as well.
Correct.
Okay. The next major challenge, as you know, insurance as an industry is having a major challenge of SKU management. And JFM is the major month where the business booking happens. Okay. As an L&D head, how would you train people to basically get away with this SKU management, and so that there is a uniformity of business, okay, across all the quarters and not just in the last quarter of the financial year?
I agree. In fact, as a financial planner, we don't believe in advising our customers to plan their finances around JFM, because the financial planning and insurance planning specifically is a life stage planning, and it should not be done towards. But of course, there are various factors which skews the sales towards JFM. Now in JFM, my department typically is not on training delivery mode or training mode. It is more skewed on performance coaching. So including myself and the team of coaches and subject matter experts and mentors that we have created across the channels and across the country. The main role of each one of us is to be out there in the field and to support our frontline teams in performance coaching, then classroom training and classroom coaching. So these 3 months, given the dynamism of the business, we are out there with our frontline, demonstrating and helping them close, what best they can. So that's really a hat that we don in these 3 to 4 months, really.
Can you cite some of the critical action plan which you have actually plotted for the current organization, which has seeked fruitful result in terms of managing this queue in the current financial year or in any of the past financial year as well? Well, there has been a dramatic change in terms of the numbers booking across all quarters. If you can just cite some example and how did you do it? That is also equally important, how you executed the entire plan.
Sure. So I'll make an attempt to answer the first part of the question, which is the strategy part. I think the most important thing in a sales-driven organization like ours, sir, is that it is very difficult, or the most difficult part is felt during the beginning of a career. We have people who are from all walks of life who join this trade. You have housewife, you have students, you have retired people like you and me, who take up this career as a second source of income. Now they get started, but then they really take time to start off the business. The most difficult thing is the first closure. So we own up the first 90 days performance of these agents. And we have a 90 days activation plan, 90 days mentorship plan. And when I say mentorship and activation, it is both input and output, both. So mentorship or training or coaching, on-field coaching, you can take all that as the input strategy. And of course, when you talk about closures, is to also ensure that this person realizes that, yes, it is possible. He believes in what he has set up his mind to do. So the first 90 days incubation is where we, along with the sales manager, along with other function such as HR, we are an anchor to ensure that this person takes off. Once his 90 days performance is achieved, and we have a fairly good success rate of the new agencies or the new sales guys. Once these people start off, once they start getting a steady stream of their incentive plan, other R&R such as training incentives and initial performance incentives. Once that starts coming in, the belief starts coming in, the knowledge starts getting into skill, and that's where their ability to do business on their own becomes better and better by the day. But yes, initially it is our team which anchors, which supports to get them going.
So you spoke about mentorship and you spoke about handholding. So how much weightage in the scorecard within the organization is been allocated to the learning and development portfolio of each individual in the PMS performance management appraisal for the year with your current organization?
See, again, we follow something which is proverbially known as 70-20-10 rule, which is your learning happens in this format, which is 70-20-10, which is 10% learning is inside the classroom, reading books, going through tutorials, videos, and stuff like that, which is more of a passive learning, followed by 20%, which is on-job coaching. On-job training is also known as popularly in the industry. But 70% comes through experience, by doing. It's like swimming. You can never learn swimming by reading a book. But once you get inside the water, you will face all kinds of challenges, and then you will emerge as a skilled swimmer. So we believe our model is completely aligned to the 70-20-10 model, is that give credit for the 70%, because 70% also has output onto it. There is a learning and there is an output also. Don't give credit to the 10%. As you do your Pareto, your Pareto clearly is weighing towards the experience part of it. I think we all learn skill, and selling is a skill. It's psychomotor skill, right? You cannot do it by being passively a learner. So that's where the incentive lies. That's where the R&R lies. So the entire thing is around output through learning.
Yeah, Nikhil,
Thanks,
can we
Vikram.
have? Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Vikram. My colleague Modali would like to take ahead for the further discussion.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. Hello, Vikram.
Hello, ma'am.
So, how are you today?
Absolutely wonderful. Never been better. Wonderful talking to you. And
that's really
Nikhil.
nice.
Thank you.
We've seen your resume. It's really impressive, with a very good exposure to the industry.
Thank you.
I would like to know more about yourself. Can you just introduce yourself, about your current company, about the role that you go to currently?
So I've been through and through part of BFSI industry. I've been fortunate to be working in a bank, and while I was working for a bank, I was on both sides of the bank, which is on the assets and the liability side, the wealth side. And I was very fortunate to train both the asset and the wealth side. In fact, when I was leaving the bank, I was training the wealth side of the bank, which exposed me to mutual fund, securities market, insurance, and what you have. And when I say exposure, it also not just means the execution part of it, but by the virtue of being a trainer of the wealth side, it helped me to clear my AMFI, my III certification. So whether it was on the securities side of the market or whether it was insurance, I was able to really upgrade myself on these things. So that's a legacy which this organization presented to me. And then I joined life insurance industry, and my two stint happened back to back in life insurance. The second one was more rewarding because I was exposed to direct, agency, bank assurance, you name it. All flavors of insurance was available for me to experience. And then I moved to NBFC. Right now, I'm working for a NBFC, which is more on a credit side, risk management side. And in all these experiences, I was very fortunate to be part of the consumer bank, the retail side of it, sales side of it, service side of it, risk management side of it. So, for example, I've really taken pride in saying that I was one of the first trainers in this country to talk about money laundering, AML, treating customer fairly, POSH, and so on and so forth. And these are things when they were really coming up in this country. And I've done that along with product and sales skill side. So that's been broadly my journey. But I'll be very happy to answer in case if you have a specific question.
Excellent. That's really nice. Now you've been, I've seen that you're growing. You have been, in a very good position right now with the company, and even the current company that you're working is in a very good state. So, what is this reason that you're looking out for a change? What is that is driving you that you have to look for a different job or opportunity?
Sure.
Exactly.
So I was very fortunate to have completed my certification recently on competency assessment, where I did my career driver assessment, and I realized my biggest drive was meaning, purpose, and to excel in what I do more than designation or the monetary part of it. And it is this drive for a higher purpose, a bigger purpose, which brings me here to your organization. I would like to believe this interaction will help me explore more as to what is on the table, and if it matches my career aspiration. If it does, and if you like my profile, it can be a good marriage.
Okay, so I was just trying to understand what are the challenges, or if you can just give me a scenario that the challenges that you face and the way you have handled it in your current organization.
Sure.
When it comes to training need analysis.
Sure. I think I'd like to talk about two important assignments, while there are more, but I'd like to talk about two of the assignments. One is we are an organization as an NBFC, which is growing at a neck break pace of 30 to 35% CAGR. The customer base is exponentially growing, and so are other things. As the customer base grows, everything else starts dictating. So we had a challenge here of ensuring that we are able to service all our customers in omni-channel, considering and keeping high standards of customer service standards. But in-house, we could not do that. So we brought in technology A, which is what I would like to talk about second. But we also looked at outsourcing a whole lot of our non-essential service to third-party vendor, at the same time keeping our quality standards, not compromising with our quality standards. So I've been instrumental in close to about 20 transitions that we have done with various partners across the country. And since I look after the training needs of customer services, operations, and collections, I've been participating with various cross-functional teams in transitioning our business successfully. Today, we have close to, like I said, 20 different vendors pan-India with their own uniqueness and speciality, where we have these businesses. And to transition what was in-house as we were growing to these vendors is something that I take pride in. It's something like saying that there is a vehicle which is moving on at a speed of, let's say, 80 or 90 miles per hour. And you have to change the tire. You have to change other important parts. Very interesting, and also brings its own flavor of challenges. So that's one project that I've been instrumental in executing in my organization. from a strategic and execution point of view, both. And that kind of makes our organization a much more agile organization in terms of what we can retain, what we can transition. Second is very close to my heart. It is more to do with the way our learning culture is driven, which is to bring in digitization, automation, and learning. So we were typically, the conventional orthodox training function, which was more focused on classroom training. In the last 3 years, that has shifted. About 60% of our way and of our content has moved onto various online platforms. So you have desktop elements, you have mobile elements, you have nano learning. So you name it. Today, the team is much more agile in terms of not just doing classroom training, but creating content in-house. And if I was to just give a monetary value to the kind of content that we have created in-house, it will run about 3 to 4 crores kind of a monetary value that we would have saved by creating in-house proprietary content, which can be used in various platforms as per the requirement of the organization. So these are two things,
So I have one last question because of the time. How do you measure the effectivity of the training programs or the content that you have developed inside? How do you measure the effectivity of the training?
Okay. Yeah. So we follow two principles in L&D, which is the ADDIE model, right? And either you name it ADDIE or SAT, which is systematic approach to training, where the first thing which is important for us to put on the table, first thing that you have to identify is what is the learning gap, and convert that into measurable form. So if somebody comes to me and says, we need training on collaboration, for example. Now, sounds very subjective. How do you measure that after you're training people are collaborating? So it's very important to identify what is, and in measured form, as to how to measure that collaboration is not happening. And having done what will you bring in collaboration? The training or coaching or any learning intervention is a later part of it. So what ADDIE, for example, it teaches us is first analyze, diagnose. It's like you are a doctor first. You first have to diagnose as to what is the problem. And that's where you ask questions, right? Then you design your solution, D. Third D, then you develop your solution. I, implement your solution and then measure it. Now, when you measure, we are a big fan of Kirkpatrick 4 levels. The 4 levels teaches us that first 2 levels are inside the classroom, and the third and fourth level are outside the classroom. The only difference is that we measure it in monetized manner. So if you say customer satisfaction has to go up, so we will say, what is the unit measure of, what is the monetary value of every unit of satisfaction? Everything we convert in monetary value because there is a monetary value out there, so that we are able to show at the end of the day to our stakeholders as to what is the monetized value of what we do. If that answers your questions.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay, Manali, thank you so much. Thank you, Nikhil, and thank you, Vikram, for cooperating and participating in this exercise. Now, the purpose of the exercise was to look at the entire process of how interviewing happens. Now, let us look at from the lens of observers. Can I have one or two observers throwing some observations? Anybody? Somebody said who was observers.
I can start.
Yeah.
I think I did note down the responses from Vikram and the questions from Manali, and both.
Is this Siddharth?
Yeah, Siddharth.
Yeah. Can we start from what was our objective? Either select or reject. Correct. Vikram, right?
Correct.
So, would you select or reject? What would you say? Oh, as an observer.
Select for sure. Select for sure.
Okay, select. All right. Okay. Now you please give me your observations.
Yes. So in terms of, I mean, I will go this way in
Be
terms of the
brief.
questions.
Be
Yeah.
brief, because I want to then cover actually the features of an interview.
Sure.
BEI and a competency based. Yeah.
Correct. So in terms of how the interview was structured, I would say it was a little like I would say upside down, in that sense. The questions which typically come in the beginning came towards the end.
Okay.
So that was one. So in terms of structure, there was that. So we dove straight into some of the specific examples and experiences of the candidate, and asked him some very sharp and specific questions, which Nikhil did very well. And we got very articulate answers from Vikram on that point, in terms of his very practical and realistic experiences that he has had. And the broader questions came a little later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anybody for Monali? Any observer who has observed Monali and would like to just give their views or observations? Anybody? Murtaza, Ram, Suruchi?
I think Monali asked a very good questions, but those questions, I agree to Siddharth that those questions should have been asked on the first stage only. But the questions which she asked was very relevant. Like she asked a very relevant question, like how to measure the training program and L&D program. So those questions were really relevant.
Okay.
And even Nikhil, the way he started, he motivated Vikram on the first place only. Like he mentioned that the profile is, your resume is very good. So he motivated the candidate on the first place only. So I really liked that part.
Okay. Let me ask the candidate himself. Okay. What did the candidate feel?
Vikram answered all the questions in such a structured way.
Let me ask Vikram himself. Vikram?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You are being interviewed for this position. Okay. As a candidate, what did you feel? What are your reflections on the way the questions were put to you? What would you say about it?
First of all, I see these questions coming from a HR journalist and not a line person, right? From that point of view, these were relevant questions. But if it's somebody who is from the L&D field, would go a little bit more deeper. But considering if it's a question coming from HR journalist, these were relevant questions, and these are good questions to gauge what is the depth the person brings to the table.
So typically, all right. So I should give now a minute or two to the interviewers as well. Nikhil, you can have your word. How did you feel? What do you think was your purpose? What kind of questions did you ask?
So I directly went, in fact, not starting doing the ice breaking, because I thought that usually what we do is we get familiarized with the background, the education and other things. So I completely skipped that, assuming that has been covered. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that was because I wanted to cover in a short span the core objective, while the interview for such position can last for 40-50 minutes as well, actually, in a real sense. So the objective was very clear. I wanted to evaluate on two parameters. One is the business acumen, how well since it is from an insurance industry. Insurance industry has its own challenges. So the L&D head should know what are the challenges and how well he can basically combat those situations in a pragmatic way. Second thing was in terms of the digitalization. So wanted to understand how well an L&D person, rather than a push factor, how can he bring in the pull factor of L&D, learning and development as a culture. It is equally important for an L&D head to strategically align this as a part of their balanced scorecard. So that is the reason I asked the final question in terms of how well it is, because until and unless for the last mile, it will be only effective if we put this in a number format as well, because people at the grassroots level won't be able to relate anything which is not clearly defined on their goal sheet or on their paper. So those were the three core objectives which I was trying to figure out from this interview process for an L&D head position.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Monali?
So, ma'am, my view was we both had not, synced together.
Okay.
Like if it was a actual interview, we would have, discussed and who would take up the thing, what's to be structured. But then, as Nikhil had already asked some few technical questions, I thought I should start with, some general questions, wherein he should not we should not miss out very important points while, they are introducing. They have very good points to start with, and they every candidate wants to express about him or sell him. So I thought I should give him that opportunity. And then slowly I was warming him up and taking things into detail, technical. But I knew that we had only 5 minutes. In that, I wanted to just cover what Nikhil had not taken up. So few points I tried to take up there. I did understand that it went a little bit haywire. That first he had already taken up. So I thought I should not miss on this part. Yeah. But otherwise, it was a good experience with Vikram.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Vikram seems to have influenced, huh? Now you will definitely get some candidates of that nature as well, who will influence you towards, making some kind of subjective decisions as well. Now look at the entire thing. I would like to actually bring to your mind, typically an interview happens this way. Typically, I would actually put it in a traditional interview or, CV-based interview. What do we do typically? If you have noticed, I had not purposely given you any kind of a briefing. Typically what happens, if you have noticed, most of the questions which Nikhil put, or even Monali, of course, she also asked about what do you do, what are your responsibilities, etc. I think somebody has to mute because I'm getting this echo, so finding it a little difficult. All right, great. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you look at all those questions, whether it was Nikhil or Monali asking, most of them were focused on getting knowledge and also some amount of skill. Would you agree? Most of the questions were focused on knowledge or the skill part. Yes, it's very, very important. That's basic. When we are actually looking for hire, we need to understand that knowledge becomes very critical, skill becomes very critical, and also the behaviors become very, very critical. Okay, the entire competency as such, and the competency is made of knowledge, skill, attitudes, etc., motives, everything, traits. But typically what do? We are focusing more with just knowledge and skill and assuming or inferring that if he has knowledge and skill, like if you look at most of the responses of Vikram were typically based, giving a lot of information on knowledge, giving a lot of information in terms of some amount of skills, what he had, but or focusing that these are the things I have done, outcomes. Okay, but you have actually not probed further in terms of, and he also most of the time he said, we did this. Now in an interview, I want to find out what did he do? Like, for example, if I say, I'm responsible for this, or I lead the team of diversity and inclusion, or we have done, like, for example, he said that we really brought in so much of content management, etc. Now, a question like, what is that you specifically did? Or tell me an instance of what is the kind of involvement did you have? Give us an instance or a situation, because it involved a lot of change management. When you're talking about digitization from classroom to e-learning, lot of things, lot of stakeholders. So it is not just fixing things, but bringing about a technology, but there was also a lot of change management initiatives. How did he collaborate? What did he do? What were the challenges? So there was so much of behavior there demonstrated. So if you look at the responses, they do not show anywhere action. So ultimately, what is very, very important, that yes, knowledge and skill is important. You can assess them through questions, and what is much more important is that we also need to probe into what is that he did. Because Vikram, I would like to ask a question. So because Vikram, can you respond to me? Because most of your responses were around that, what have you achieved?
Yep.
Outcomes.
Okay.
results, right? So maybe you focus so much on results and achievements because you are not probed further in terms of, say, for example, when you said we would have achieved content which would have costed about 1 to 3 crores or more than that, brought in a lot of digital transformation through e-learning, etc. But I'm sure if we probe further, your involvement in dealing with the various stakeholders who are internal, external stakeholders, I'm sure there were a lot of challenges in the way you went about to achieve that. And that is what has to be highlighted. I mean, you are not probed. So therefore, like for example, change management. Change management is not just changing the technology, but how are you changing your workforce from a classroom to that, getting on to e-learning model, right? There must have been a lot of things. You spoke about mentoring, coaching. It is not easy for people to quickly, get into that learning mode. So, so there were certain kind of what is that you did, or what, how did you go about initiating the entire thing? What is that you did to initiate that? So these were the questions. So typically when we talk about traditional interviews, they are typically like this, focusing more in terms of knowledge and skills. And then when the candidate talks about all the achievements and everything, we feel that the candidate is great, and we tend to then go by those achievements and say, hey, he's a great candidate, not realizing the fact that maybe but what are those critical competencies which actually go into achieving these things, right? Like for example, talent management, or for example, team leadership, for example, change management, or there were a lot of things there. What is it? Innovation and creativity. Okay, so therefore we will look at, hey, how important it is for us to look at interview. Today, what we talk about in a behavioral event interviewing is that past behavior is a good example of future behavior. So it's a very good predictor of your performance. So therefore, having said that, typical iceberg where we are looking at knowledge and skills and asking questions in a similar way, we need to, when we are doing a BEI, behavioral event interviewing, what we need to look at is those situations which Nikhil actually looked at. Nikhil at some point of time, he said, what are those critical incidents, etc. But of course, paucity of time. So whenever you're doing a BEI, it is not 10, obviously it takes about 3 to 4 hours, because you really want to give him a lot of time and listen to all those stories, situation, just as the way they have happened, and go to the depth of it and understand in those critical incidents what kind of behavior has been demonstrated. Because we are talking about what in a behavioral interview, behavior indicator. Only a behavior indicator is observable. Whatever is observable can be measurable. Okay, so the focus in a BEI is that we are looking at behavior of the past situations and typically critical incidents. Not every day what you're doing as a tactical, that you mail some letters, etc. But you are looking at critical situations. Now, having said that, as you all know that the competency movement actually started, was a lot of research work has been done, and it was done by McClelland. And then organizations started doing behavioral event interviewing in a big way. Now, what happens when you're doing a BEI? You're interviewing a candidate. Typically what happens in a situation, you're asking them, okay, after getting to know about the person a little, about his job, etc. Okay, fine. Tell me about the, 3 highs and 3 lows, or tell me about a situation where you felt in the recent past that you felt great about having achieved a certain thing. So please narrate to me as a story. Okay, what exactly happened? So you look at it as a situation, what happened, then you look at the kind of action you have taken, and then what happened as the result, outcome, etc. Now, typically when organizations were using BEI, their experience was that through these situations, after analyzing the behavior, they would actually get a list of competencies. But it would take a long time. But maybe those situations actually, the kind of competencies inferred from the situations did not bring about the competencies which are required for the position. For example, I have actually taken Vikram through a BEI. Now I asked him, okay, fine, let me tell me in the recent past some of your highs or some of your situations where you felt that you have achieved something. Okay, he takes me through. Or some of the situations which you feel as a low point, he takes me through the thing. Now I analyze the entire situation, I do the thematic analysis, I code them, and then I infer certain competencies. But whereas I actually need something like a strategic orientation or maybe a business acumen. But I've realized that in those situations, he has actually not told me anything about, or I could not infer these competencies. He may be having those competencies or he may not be having those competencies. Or maybe in the recent past, maybe 1 year, 2 years, that these were not dormant. He must be having it somewhere. It will take a long time if I were to keep on asking him of situation right up to, school time, college, etc. So therefore, in the 90s, when globalization happened and our organizations felt that, hey, with the multinationals abroad are able to get much more with lesser human resource as in compared to a larger workforce in India. That's the time they realized the impact of talent, good talent. They kind of recognized talent. They said, hey, if I were to get the right kind of a talent, I'm able to get much more for the organization. There'll be much more impact and much more performance. So that's where then they actually came up with what we call it as competency-based interviewing. Now you may say, what is the difference between a behavioral event interviewing and a competency-based interviewing? Competency-based interviewing is just an offshoot of the behavioral event interview. Now, even in a competency-based interviewing, you are using the same technique of behavioral events. That is, you are asking for past events. But what are you doing here? You know that I'm actually hiring for the position of an L&D. I've identified for this role the list of 4 or 5 critical competencies which impact his performance. Then I have thereafter identified what are those behavioral indicators which actually relate to the competencies. And then I start asking the candidate in terms of then particularly, hey, now these are the list of competencies. I straight away tell the candidate that these are the list of competencies. Now, please tell me in the recent past or sometime instance where you have demonstrated business acumen. So what does it mean? That I'm actually highlighting on those competencies and I want to know more about those competencies. So I want to know whether the candidate has demonstrated that behavioral indicator pertaining to that particular competency in the recent past. So if you look at, so competency-based interview is just an offshoot of behavioral event interview. Okay, so we would be actually now focusing a lot more on competency-based interviewing, which also takes into consideration the technique of behavioral event interview. So competency-based interviewing is the most effective form of interviewing as it focuses on gathering evidence of required skills, experience, and all the qualities collectively known as competencies. As you know that this information helps you to actually ensure that it will differentiate the effective performer from the ineffective performer. So you actually list down all the competencies in the competency-based interview. So if you look at here, each question is targeting a specific skill set that the hiring manager believes is important to the job. He is not letting it like unstructured. He is actually targeting. Every question is meant to get some kind of a response with regard to that specific skill or competency which you want to evaluate for. And then the candidate of the interview is expected to offer specific examples. So the reason is to understand the behavior patterns behind the questions. Now you may say, why are we asking situations? We want to then look at all the kind of behaviors demonstrated which are aligned with those behaviors of the competencies. Are they being demonstrated consistently? Not as fluke, as silos or once in a way, but consistently. So therefore it takes time when you're doing a competency-based interview, and therefore you need to actually at least look at several situations to see are there patterns running. It is just not one situation and he has demonstrated certain behavior that is good enough. So typically, how is the process? So in a competency-based interview, what is the process? All of you know, in the step 1, you typically look at a JD and see what is the knowledge, skill, attitude, abilities, everything what is required for the job. Thereafter, what do you look at? Then you look at the competencies. Then typically you may say that how do we map competencies, which we have actually talked about. You need to talk to the top performers or the supervisor, and then talk about situations wherein you can actually then look at what are those key competencies and the kind of examples which they relate. They form the behavior. They become the part of the behavior which help us to clearly mark as behavior indicators. Okay. Now, so typically when we start with the competency-based interview, so we look at the candidate's current role. Then we want to understand what is his career history, so that it helps us to keep a track of what he has done, and it also helps us to ask questions in terms of the kind of situations or the kind of instances he may have had in different careers in the past. Okay, now we typically use a star, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. When we are talking about situations or instances, we say please start with the situation, then talk about what is the task you actually had to complete, and then what is the kind of an action and what kind of a result. Now in all these situations, typically we tend to say we. It is very important to say, all right, but what was your contribution? So what is that you specifically did? Because we actually want to know what has the person done. Now, there were certain kind of questions where between Nikhil and Monali, if you have noticed, they said, why? So, typically when we are doing a competency-based behavioral event interviewing, we don't ask questions like why, because here we are not asking for justification as to why he did this. We only want to know what happened, how did it happen, what were his experiences, what were his thoughts, what were his feelings. So we want to know everything about what happened, but not why he did. How did he go about, but not why. So we typically choose the kind of questions we ask, and definitely a why is a total no. Then Nikhil in the first instance was also asking about, in the first question, multiple questions. We actually start with a broad question, Like, for example, Manal said, okay, tell us something about yourself in terms of what all have you done. It gives us that breadth question, width question, and then narrow down to things where you can actually probe further and further. In fact, sometimes what in my personal experience, what I have done is I have also kind of used group discussions. For example, if there are 4 or 5 candidates who are supposed to be going through this interview, I first of all give them a group discussion. Then that becomes my starting point in terms, I say, hey, I saw you actually taking a lot of initiative in terms of getting the group around. So can you give me an instance in your recent past, in your work experience, as to, highlighting or throwing some light on what is that something which you really achieved, taking into consideration as a team task, etc. How did you initiate things? What happened then? So that becomes my starting point. So I can use group discussion. I also have actually used in my organizations wherever I was working, I have actually, even in the application form, I insisted that these are the kind of competencies I'm looking at, and I actually want to get CVs which they emphasize more on what are the kind of competencies they have. Okay, we also used test. These are some of the starting points before you get into a competency-based interview. For example, now just to give you some kind of a some questions, just sample questions. You can ask something like, the interviewer may ask you to describe a situation in your workplace where you have solved a difficult problem, and then you could actually ask, all right, you have solved a difficult problem. What kind of a problem have you solved? And then what kind of an initiative have you taken? What is that you did? What are some of the details? So you can talk about all of them. Keep noting it down. Or when you're talking about your achievements, you can start about achievement and then say, okay, fine. Can you throw more light on this achievement? What was it like? So what did you do there? Then who are the others involved? So it's like a story, and you want to know the entire thing, which actually highlights what is our keen interest, wanting to for the participant to highlight more on the observable behaviors. If I cannot get behaviors, then I cannot measure. So that's the key, because once you get all the behaviors, then you collate the behaviors and see, is there a pattern in these behaviors? Can I actually code them into different, bucket them into different kind of competencies? Okay. Yeah. One second, guys. Okay. So typically, some of the do's is giving more time to the candidate in terms of delving more on the situation so that you can probe further, giving him a broad question first and narrowing down, and then going further and further. A golden rule is no judgments, no whys, no leading questions. So these are a typical no in a BEI. Now, having got these few do's and don'ts, what I would like you all to do is, there is another position for which we are recruiting. This is the head HR position. Okay. Now, I would like a new candidate for this position. That is, Monali would be the candidate. All right. There will be 2 interviewers. Vikram will be one of them, and Siddharth would be the other candidate. Now, I want you to focus, having considered that they are good in their knowledge, they are good in their skills. I would like you to focus more on the given 3 or 4 competencies which you have got. So you can actually talk about what? A team leadership, creativity and innovation, change management. So I would like you to take about 5 minutes to make your own questions, and also to take the help of whatever material Vilma has sent. And I would like you to actually then go through another fresh panel of candidate, interviewers, and the observers. Okay. Vikram, are you okay to be the interviewer?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now the focus will be more on probing for observable behaviors. Please consider that they are very good in their knowledge and they are very good in their skills. Considering that the head HR is responsible for the entire HR function and his objective is to align with the business strategy and achieve the business goals. Okay, so you can understand the kind of competences which are required by them, and there are certain list of competences which you have already got. Now the idea is for us to learn how do we probe and how do we actually help the candidate to demonstrate some of the past behavior through situations. Now here, the first instance, I want the interviewers to tell them, hey, this is the job. These are the list of competencies which I am actually interviewing you for. Okay, straight away on the board. All right. And then you can start saying that tell us an instance because you want to evaluate this particular competency, etc. So I want to see now more questions focused on probing, so that I can actually see the candidate coming up with more demonstrable behavior. Is that okay? Is that okay, Siddharth? Are you able to, am I on the same page as your understanding?
Yeah.
So the focus is not on knowledge.
Sure.
Okay, how much he knows, but the focus is more on past behavior, which helps him to do the present role very efficiently and effectively. Got it?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to now see how do you do the probing. So I want you all to take about 5 minutes to frame your own questions, and Siddharth and Vikram can actually talk to each other who will probe for what competencies, so that you don't overlap as well, right?
Sure.
Now the interview can happen for about 15 minutes. That should give you a good time, right? So both of you should take a minute to talk to each other and say that these are the competencies you will be interviewing Monali for, and Vikram will be interviewing for different set of competencies. All right?
Sure.
Okay.
Vikram, I'm just calling you.
Yep.
So Vilma, are you going to put us in a separate?
No. It will be in the main hall because the rest will be observers.
So would Monali be, right?
Yeah, everybody. Okay. Vilma, can you put Vikram and Siddharth for about, you need 5 minutes or 10 minutes, Vikram?
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
We'll just.
Okay. It's very important for you too, because the focus here is on behavior. Okay.
You can also
deep
call
down.
Vikram on his phone. Vikram, is that okay? Or
No. Siddharth, Vilma is putting us in a separate.
No, because it will be recording done also, so it will be good. Yeah.
Sure.
Vilma, can you just put them into a separate room for some time?
Vikram and Siddharth, okay?
Yeah, these are the two candidates. Monali is the candidate, okay, and she is being interviewed for head HR.
Okay,
Should I just exit for a minute or so instead of?
Pardon?
Should I exit? I said for 5 minutes so that they will do it.
I'm not able to get.
Not required. Monali, you be here. Myself and Siddharth, we'll be put in a separate room by Vilma. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm putting you in the room. You can join.
Thank you.
While the rest, please, I want you all to now, 2 of you will observe Vikram and 2 of you will observe, Siddharth. And you will now give me examples of what questions did they actually ask and what kind of a behavior came out. Okay. So we are observing and making a note of more of the kind of questions they are asking. This is instruction for the observers. Is that okay, guys?
Nirmala,
Yeah.
Siddharth and Vikram are put in one room.
Yeah, yeah.
And Monali also has to join them after some time?
No, no, no. Now they will come back to the main room and all of us, Monali will be the candidate.
Okay, okay. So they have gone for discussion.
Yeah, just 5 minutes discussion.
5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, so that there is no overlap and they are asking on different competencies, right? Okay, and the rest of them will be observers. I don't know if they are there, and they will observe. Two of them will observe Vikram, and 2 of them will observe Siddharth. Now they will actually make a note of questions and see that did it really from the candidate evoke that kind of a response what we are looking at in terms of behavior.
Just tell them who all will observe Siddharth and who will observe Vikram.
Yeah. Is Lena, or shall I put it in the chat?
Yes, I put it in the chat.
I think everyone can notice everyone's behavior.
I think
that
very short.
Lena, are you able to hear me? Lena, then Nikhil, Murtaza, they will observe Vikram.
Okay.
They will note down the questions and they will reflect on that and the kind of responses what Monali has actually given. Is it really evoking that kind of a response? Then Saptarshi is there, looks like. Saptarshi.
Oh no, he's not there.
Okay. Ram Suruchi, that's it, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Will observe Siddharth.
Okay.
You will make a note of the questions which Siddharth is asking. Okay. Now you will reflect on them, whether they were probing questions or whether they were direct questions or leading questions or they were, okay. Yes,
Okay.
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 Shall I ask them to come out now?
I want you all to comment on those questions. All right.
Nirmala, shall I ask them to move out now?
Yeah, yeah.
Ma'am, I have not given interview in 10 years still, no?
Vilma.
Are you done with? Then we'll.
No. Wait. Vilma, which industry we are in? As in, we are doing the interview for a HR head for which industry?
Which in HR head this is for? I think the industry was not given. You can use insurance industry. Same.
Okay. So Siddharth, are you comfortable with insurance?
Insurance, little bit. I don't have too much experience.
Okay, nahin. So फिर आप बताइए which industry would you like to take?
No, I think we can lead with insurance. Maybe you can help me with a couple of questions. Like for the sake of the role play, we can do that. I could pick and choose. I could contribute in that sense. I have a little bit of experience in reinsurance. I don't know. So what I can do is, some very broad questions which I can ask.
Broad
questions, and then I don't think too much industry knowledge is required anyways. That's a broad question.
Yes. I think we start with a broader question, then get into the specifics, and then we probe. So वो पकड़ना पड़ेगा, उन्हीं के आंसर से निकालना पड़ेगा, है ना? As the person answers, we will have to pick up from there and then do it.
Sounds good. I'll give it a shot. No problem.
Great. Superb.
Fine.
So Vilma, we are good to go.
Yes, we are leaving the room now.
Thanks.
One instruction, I want you all to focus on more of the behavior, all right? More on the competencies. And as I said, in the first instance, you can actually talk about saying that these are the kind of competencies which we are looking at for this role and start with the competencies. And the time frame will be say about 15 minutes should be good enough. 20 minutes.
So we'll target 15.
15. Okay. And you can, if there is, okay, then we'll stretch. Done? Okay. Observers, please make a note of the questions. As I said, you can divide yourself. I think Leena and so two of them will be Vikram and 2 or 3 of them will be what is it? Siddharth. All right. Good to go, Manali?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Our candidate is ready, Vikram.
Hi, Ms. Manali. How are we doing?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you.
Great, Manali. So as you would have been briefed, we are looking for a HR head role. And Manali, given the seniority of the role, please understand this is more of an interaction to know you and to know the kind of amazing work that you have done in the past, then an interview. So we will make it interactive, and feel free to ask as many questions you want to ask. Let's make it a two-way dialogue, then a monologue. That'll be the way I would, set the context for this discussion and this interaction. Is that fair with you?
Yes, thanks for making me comfortable.
Yeah. I also have my colleague, Mr. Siddharth, and both of us will be engaging with you in a period of next 10 to 15 minutes, or as it goes, right? Now, I'm specifically, given the business requirement, I'm specifically looking at 2 broad competencies, and my discussion will be around those 2 competencies. The first is around change management. That's one thing which I'll be focusing on. And the second is going to be around a new management term which has emerged in the last 1 decade or so in corporate world, which is called VUCA. Given the dynamism of the business, given the and the further acceleration of dynamism which COVID has brought in the last 1 year or so, right? These are 2 competencies I would like to explore further with you, and these are the focus for our organization also, right? Are we good with that?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
With the first, yes. With the second, I am not very much aware.
All right. So I'll help you out in that, and let's see how it shapes up. Okay. So there's this requirement for us to understand is if you're comfortable and if you've made some changes in your current assignment where you work around digital adoption, right? So I'd like to understand if there is any assignment that you have done around digital adoption for your current organization.
Okay, so being a consultant, I have not worked to be frank. So with my current latest assignment, this was a proprietorship firm, which they had around 50 people, and they were working in a very traditional way. Then while doing a lot of work with them, so basically we have to deal with the management thought process basically. So where I start is with changing of the thought process. So if a company has worked in a traditional way, wherein there is not a lot of digital touch to the organization, we have helped them to first understand what is a requirement and why we have to shift to a digital phase. So basically, currently, if they're working in an organization, if having the assignment with them, the traditional way of them were like, they were having simple Excel files and everything that they were using. So what we did is we shifted them to HRMS. Okay, so wherein we introduced to them Great HR and other you can say current digital technologies and how we can actually use them for analysis, analytical tools, to get the right database from them, or you can say how the database is going to help us to take decisions. Okay, so if there is no database or if there is no analysis done, then it is difficult for the management to take decisions. So gathering the data in one base and digitalizing it to take proper decisions is what we have been doing we have helped organizations do this thing.
Broadly, what were the 2 objectives which you were needed to be achieving? What were you tasked with?
Yeah, so task was, as I said, it is a if it is a a proprietary ownership or a it is a it is not a corporate way of working of an organization. It was just a traditional way wherein people were in regular tasks they were working. So my objective was to first of all make it a functional driven organization, make a process oriented organization, and then digitalize the HR function completely by using different tools and making it more process oriented. So this is what was the
what stage of digitalization you were able to complete, and what time it took you?
Yeah. So digitalization, as I said, we were able to incorporate HR systems for them, and the time we took were around 4 to 5 months, because it was more of changing the people attitude, changing them technically, making them qualified that okay, now it is not that you have to use only Excel files and everything. Now you have to do more into system oriented work wherein processes are set, and that was the way we had incorporated certain things.
So you're saying that in about a quarter plus kind of a time you were able to bring this change?
Yes. It was 50 people organization. So
correct. In terms of ROI, in terms of return on investment of this effort, what were the benefits that you were able to share with your board or with your management?
So yes, it is a good question, Vikram. So with ROI, whatever, as I said, to making it process oriented itself was a task. Okay, from people oriented, making it a process oriented company, and then it was very easy for them to expand because they had a lot of contracts, they had a lot of orders coming up, but it was difficult for them to even the business process that was there, it was not in a shape wherein they could handle that much of work. The reason was it was very much of people oriented tasks that they were doing. So when it was a process oriented thing, the company started giving a lot of attention towards how instead of
I'd like to stop you here.
Can I Vikram, can I make you pause so that you can go on the right track for a minute? For example, what were you looking at? Mona said what we did is shifted them to currency. Okay, one leading question there is, what is that you really did to shift from the current system to whatever system she was? Taking a cue from that question, statement she closed. But whereas then you went on to what were the two objectives, what are the tasks. So you shifted from there. You had not probed further in terms of what is that she did. So you could get a lot more information there. Then again, my objective was to change from this, to become a functional organization or a process. That was one objective. A cue for you. Okay, in order to make that, what is that, or how did you go about? So that will give her something. Again, go further down. I mean, you take one thing and then go deeper, deeper, deeper.
Correct.
You were kind of thinning yourself, asking various other things. Okay. Like for example, you then, when she said that, you asked what time it took. So when you ask what time it took, what was the purpose of this question? I'm just trying to save time, so I'm actually attacking questions. What was the purpose? So that Siddharth can actually start. What was the purpose of the question?
So I wanted to gauge what is the time and her specific role. So if she's saying 4 months in which she was able to transform, then I would like to understand what was her specific role that she was able to crack it in 4 months. Usually a digitalization initiative takes at least 6 months or a year. So to me, 4 months was sounding, very less, right? And hence I wanted to ask, aapne kiya kya? What did you do in these 4 months?
So again, a very critical question. You're already now looking at benchmarking with some other data. You have to keep your mind data and keep collecting, saying that, okay, you're evaluating already. Okay, but you are not getting into, okay, what did you do then? Because what time it took, 4 or 5 months, is not going to really give any kind, throw up any kind of a behavior. It will only give you some kind of an input, which will again put you into evaluation mode of saying, acha, but that it took only 6 months. How could it be in 4 or 5 months? Okay, I'm just trying to bring you here, because here I don't want to be judging. I want to keep an open mind and keep talking more about it. Like for example, she said changing people's attitudes. Yes, so you should say, oh, what is that? What kind of initiatives did you do to change people's attitudes? What were they? What getting into it, because she's talking about something she did, but she has not spoken about what is that in person. What did she do? I may say we did. So then you jumped on to another question saying, in terms of ROI again, you are looking at again a financial lag indicator, ROI. But here it is that I'm more interested in, hey, what is the, because I'm not interested in outcomes. I'm interested in what is that she did, what kind of behaviors, what kind of activities has she done in terms of initiation, in terms of hand holding, in terms of mentoring, in terms of coaching. What is that? What kind of challenges she came across? Okay, so just wanting to put that so that we are on the track. And Siddharth also will then start asking the right question. I want you to now go to that VUCA, so that I want to see now relevant questions.
Okay.
To Siddharth. Because there are also a lot of change and market forces impacting and all that stuff. So, and especially like COVID times. So I want to,
Yeah. So Ms. Manali, as the acronym VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, these 4 letters define the way organizations operate in the 21st century, and I say that for government, corporate, public sector, anyone. There is no set rule now which governs the way we work. I would like to understand, if you're faced a VUCA situation in your current organization, and
I want to correct you now, Vikram. We always tend to be hypothetical. Okay, so best is the COVID situation. Say for example, so here hypothetical situations are not going to, they will only give us the correct answers, correct responses. Oh, I will do this. But how will you say future be, so what I will espouse or what I will say, what is the guarantee that I'm going to do that when I'm on the job? So you have to look at more from the past behavior. So look at if such an uncertainty kind of environment, say for example, what are some of those critical market forces which are impacting our organization, and in the past, for example, what kind of a situation was there? First of all, how did she respond? What did she do? Right? Getting me?
Yeah. So Manali, you've got the question from ma'am.
No, I wanted to, because I'm only trying to save time here.
Yeah. No,
otherwise, one whole day we do these things, pausing and all that. Yeah. Because that's one thing as an interviewer, we tend to be hypothetical. Gone are the days when we say, hey, what is that you're going to be in 10 years or 15 years? Nobody will ask that question.
Yeah.
What are your strengths and weaknesses? Nobody is going to ask you that question, mind you.
Absolutely. I'll get on. So Manali, tell us how in the last 11 months, when COVID-19 hit your organization, what are the few things you specifically as a HR leader demonstrated in your organization? I'll be very happy to learn some of the things that you have done to manage change in the organization.
I'm so sorry, Vikram. Can you just rephrase that question saying that, hey, what is the kind of a challenge you faced in the recent past in this COVID situation?
Yeah.
Correct. And she will come out with some challenge.
So tell us, what are the challenges that you faced during the COVID time?
Critical challenges,
Critical challenges, and how you responded to that, Manali.
So yes, Vikram, everyone went through a COVID situation. Many organizations, have a lot of ups and downs. Similarly, my organization did have. So as it was an not a planned situation which we were supposed to deal with. So here, the basic challenge that we were facing was for how to handle the employees, or how to handle their mental stress, and how to keep them still motivated, and how to pull them out throughout the complete stage. Yes, so this was the bigger, larger, like, bigger challenge than any other, because every other challenges were also there, but this was a bigger challenge because that was of the existing workforce that was there. What we did was,
Monali, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'll really appreciate in case if you can respond to the queries by using I instead of we, because I would be very much interested to learn as to what was your specific role in this activity.
Right. So I was coming to that. So during this situation, I took an initiative as an HR head to first talk to every employee. Okay. So not being a very large organization, it was easy for me to get connected with them and share with them my experiences, and share others' experiences that everyone is going through, and getting them to a feeling that, okay, nothing is going to be disturbed. This is just a situation and we are going to pull it out. Okay, so keeping them motivated through that, then having a lot of fun activities online wherein they were interacting, and to keeping them engaged, because there was work that was also hampered, but still keeping them engaged with other activities, or training related activities that we do. Training also wherein we use a lot of initiatives to making them understand that, okay, we've got this time wherein we can upscale ourselves. Okay, so we can learn a lot of things. So whatever competencies are there, or whatever performance reviews that we have been taking during that, and so talking individually, it was easy for us to counsel them and understand them. So such initiatives were taken from our side.
Again, I would request you to refrain from our to
to me. Yes. So that was one thing. Yeah.
Did you benchmark these activities, and if you did, what were the outcomes of these activities that you undertook?
So we did benchmark because first of all, I had a team meeting on this. So with our internal team, we had a meeting wherein we understood what exactly we are going to do. Okay, so we planned the activities, and we had functional, you can say, heads involved in this to understand how we can, drive these things to their own departments. And after benchmarking that, we understood that, okay, the employees, if they're engaged, or, if they're working, they are not thinking too much about other things. So during our first initial interactions, whatever, inputs we got from the employees, and later on, during, after the sessions and after activities, whatever feedbacks we were getting, they were much positive, or you can say they were much stable. The employees' mental level were much stable than what we had, gauged them when we started the activity.
Okay. So Vikram, can we shift to Siddharth?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Vikram. Yeah.
Thank you.
Monali, if you can tell me about a time, right, when you had to determine the best practices for your organization or your business unit, especially in your role as an HR leader. How did you determine, which practices would work best for your organization and for that particular business unit?
Okay. So, Siddharth, when we start a new practice, or whenever we have to understand that what will work for an organization, we have to first research what the employees need. Okay, what practices for such organizations have worked.
So can you tell me a specific, a little bit more specific example in terms of where you took the lead in terms of a similar initiative, and what are some of the action steps that you took to understand and essentially uncover the best practices which is going around in your industry, especially in the insurance industry, and then bringing those best practices into your organization. You can be as specific as you want with your answer.
Okay. So I'll just give you an example. When I joined the company, it was that the people, I first, as I had understood that, it is a retail sales driven organization here. And I had to understand what are the, okay, so here I have to understand.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just thinking because it's a different project.
You can give a small situation so that, it helps others as well. Like, I would like to reframe Siddharth's question. Like he said, what are the best practices or something like that, if I recall.
Yes,
So rather reframe it saying that, say, for example, you were saying, wanting to say that, hey, how did you go about, these new practices, or what is that you really did to put in place those new practices, right? That is what. So rather than sounding it as just an outcome kind of a based question, it will be more helpful sometimes when we start, because that is a tendency to ask, so it is actually an art and a skill to ask these questions when you are doing a behavioral event interview, in terms of saying, hey, tell us something more about that, or how did you go about it, or what is that you did, right? Okay.
Right.
But typically we say, what do you think you will do? We have that tendency in an interview asking, what is that? So yeah, yes, Monali.
So basically, first, for the retail industry, what I'm working for, I did a lot of research about. We have salespeople, sales-driven organization, as I said. So we are into incentives, and we have to plan incentives for sales or counter sales people. So here, what was my I started with research of the similar industries, how they are doing. And then what is the way that my current organization is doing? And then I tried to bridge the gap with that. Okay, so I started, I evaluated a plan that what will work for this industry. Then, then we benchmark the compensations and everything and the parameters for the performances, and we linked it with the incentives. So this was a very good initiative which has worked and is still, very productively giving us sales performances for the company.
Sure. Thank you. Makes sense. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Siddharth. So what I can give you a couple of more minutes to ask one more question, and then we'll wrap, because I'm going to now give you an exercise where for everybody to help you with the art of questioning in a behavioral event interview, because that is more critical. We know what to ask, but the art of asking questions.
And can we get some sample questions, like what type of questions to be asked?
Yeah, we are going to do that in a minute now. Okay. So Siddharth, you can ask one more question, and then we will pause and we'll do that.
Sure. So one very specific question again. So if you if you can tell us, of a time when you observed specifically a slightly concerning pattern, right, in terms of the data that came through, which you gathered. What steps did you take to raise the relevant issues to even the higher management?
Okay.
Concerning that data.
So when an irrelevant data, or you can say a pattern of data,
concerning data, yeah. Let's say, for example, attrition data or something like that, where you found a concerning pattern. What did you do to address that pattern and take it to the higher management? Okay.
So first of all, when it, for example, it was an attrition data itself to talk to. I first understood what were the reasons behind this attrition. Okay, so what was the reasons that came up for this attrition that is coming up, or why it is happening? Okay, I try to understand for myself, and taking into consideration all the points by evaluating that data, why exactly things are happening. I try to take it to the higher management and also along with that, how we can reduce the attrition ratio.
So my question is, did you go straight with the data to the higher management, or did you do some interim steps as well in between before you went to the higher management?
Obviously, so when I had the data, I did the analysis part, okay, and being an head HR, whatever activities with my team I was supposed to do, I interacted with them. I tried to understand the reason. If there were some functional reasons that were coming, functional heads were there, or was it because of the system? Was it because of the process that we are following? Was it because of the customers that are affecting? Was it because of the knowledge of the candidates that we are hiring? What exactly is it, the culture, or what is the difference? So I try to understand that, and taking that data I presented to the company that, okay, see, this is the scenario that is coming up, and how we can, what are the measures that we can take. What
so can I pause here for a minute and ask people to respond? Monali was demonstrating certain behavior. What will you code it as? What is that? She said, I will look at this, I will look at this, I will look at this. So typically from the interviewer standpoint of view, then what will you kind of label it as?
Attention to detail.
Pardon?
Attention to detail quality.
Any other? Any other?
It was more hypothetical.
Hypothetical, yeah.
Exploring options. She's
Analytical.
exploring options, right? All the possible options of, what could happen. So when a person says, I looked at this, I looked at this, I looked at this, I was looking at, so looking at alternatives for a solution. For a certain problem, you are looking at alternatives. Where can the solution be? So because some behavior has been demonstrated, so I thought I can actually pause and say, hey, this is how you captured that. Like she was showing some action of looking at options. So exploring alternatives when you have a problem, or, for solving a problem. So exploring various solutions. Got it?
Sure.
Okay, guys. So, Siddharth, we can, so what I'm planning to do now, I'm going to change so that you learn more, because what I've actually realized, yes, as I said, the art of asking questions in a BEI, it is an art. So probably I will help you all with it, with another methodology quickly. All right. Before I get on to that, do you guys want to take a small break of 5 minutes? I'll leave it to you. Otherwise, we can just go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
You want to take a break of 5 minutes, or we can go ahead?
Break.
Okay. All right. Please, 5 minutes only, huh? Okay.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Right. Okay. Finish. Go and do the pipeline.
Back, ma'am.
Back. Okay. Vikram, are you able to see what I'm showing?
Yes, ma'am. It's there, but it's not on a presentation mode.
Now?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh? Is it good enough to be seen? You can see
Yes,
very well?
visible.
Huh?
Legible, legible.
It's visible, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I need to shift gears because I realized, yes, we all go through this process of, we may be very good subject matter experts, we may be very senior leaders, but the art of interviewing is absolutely a great skill. Okay, is everybody back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, great. Okay, so for the next 15 to 20 minutes, because I want to leave 10 minutes, I mean, if people have any doubts, I want to clear them. What are we going to do? Essentially, in a behavioral interview, and especially when we talk about competencies, for an interviewer, how is he actually going to, what kind of questions is he actually going to ask? Because how is he going to elicit the right kind of responses in order to evaluate that competency? So I want to shift from, say, from an expert level to, I'll go a little below so that we can actually learn the skill. For example, say that all of you are aware of a typical job description of a recruiter who does recruiting for especially for the college pass outs. So this person has to typically go to all these colleges. Say, for example, I'm Infosys or Accenture. I'm trying to get for my entry level all engineering pass outs. So this recruiter will actually need to go to all the colleges, conduct exams, etc., and do a lot of traveling, all that. So that is the kind of a profile. Now I realize that in this profile, adaptability is a key competency. Okay, adaptability is a key competency. Now, how do I understand adaptability? Adaptability is the definition, and the level of proficiency will be different from level to level. Adaptability for a senior level top management person will be very different, and adaptability for a lower level person will be different. Okay, so typically I'm keeping it at a lower level management and mid level, say, for example. So this is the definition: proven ability to perform well under changing conditions, high stress and adverse physical conditions, ability to relate to varied personalities and absorb new methods with excellent practical results. Okay, so adaptability could be what? Maybe if the job is a lot of travel, like a salesperson, he also has to be adaptable because, you know, changing food, changing seasons, changing conditions, a lot of physical conditions change. So when I'm looking at adaptability, how do I actually perceive adaptability? How do I look at adaptability? Okay. Now, what are some of those indicators? Please have a look at these indicators. When I'm what are indicators? Behavioral indicators. These are those observable behaviors, which will say either the presence or the absence of that competency. Okay. Willing to expand on original duties, wanting to contribute and learn as much as possible to enhance performance. Even this is, you know, one of the indicators of adaptability, in the sense I'm not a person who's just wanting to be tied down with my own job description. Okay, I'm willing to explore, I'm willing to take up new responsibilities. That's also an adaptability. Then previous successful adaptations to significant change, such as a new boss, a new product, or new approaches. All these things, because adapting to new bosses or adapting to new products or new approaches, new technology, adaptability. Then consistent past performance under adversity or major negative changes. It could be even external market forces. How do you adapt? Then demonstrated ability to work with a wide spectrum of people. That is also an adaptability. High level of achievement under high stress and pressure. Then no apprehension about multi-dimensional or wide range work. So these are some even geographically changes, tempered with success and stability. So these are some of the behavioral indicators. Now I want to know from you, what are anybody can respond. 1 or 2 questions you will actually ask. Then I will show you some set of questions. Typically, what questions? If you just tell me what are some of those questions you will ask to test adaptability. Anybody?
So the first question in this regard would be giving us an instance wherein there was an uncomfortable situation or something unfamiliar situation for a candidate where he had to cope up. There can be a cultural difference as well. Like there are organizations when you join from an MNC to a Indian company which is run by a chairman and managing director, there are a lot of cultural shocks. So how a person can be adaptable in terms of those cultural aspects as well. So this is one of a kind of a question which can be asked.
Very good. Because say for example, in the CV, you are seeing that this person has worked in an MNC and thereafter he has shifted to another company, which is totally a family owned company. Now, obviously there are cultural changes. So you want to see this guy's adaptability in terms of what is that he did or how did he go about shifting from an MNC culture, which is all system driven, process driven, to very much, family oriented culture, highly bureaucratic, maybe not letting much of openness, flexibility, etc. Right? So that is one question. Right? Excellent. Anybody else? You can assume the role and also, yeah.
Okay. Previously, you had, because if you're looking at a recruiter, previously you had physical interviews, and with the COVID situation, it's all virtual ones. Okay, and what initiatives or what have you done to adapt to this new situation? Okay.
You are right, Leena. I know what. See, you are trying to say that now that you can't actually go to the campus, you can't take the campus.
So the whole thing will be virtual.
Now it's all virtual. So how did you go about? What are some of the challenges you have actually confronted? What is that you did? And you can take one challenge and then keep probing at it, right?
Right.
Then you will get to know how are they adaptable in terms of even maybe technology, maybe people, maybe trying to actually communicate with the campus entrance in trying
everything,
to
the whole system.
There's an entire gamut of challenges there. Communication, everything. Absolutely, you are right. So good. I mean, in terms of adaptability, that's one thing you can check. Anybody else?
I just thought of a situation where I look at a CV and the person is typically from northern part of the country.
Right.
He is expected to work out of a southern state. Could be Bangalore or Bangalore, not Bangalore. It could be Chennai. So the question will be, how would you adapt culturally to this place in terms of language, in terms of your own, food habits, ability to break ice with the leadership team there and stuff like that. So how agile and how adaptable you will be in an environment that possibly in your CV you have not worked in the past. You've worked either out of western part of the country or you have worked out of northern part of the country, and they are more kind of language neutral as compared to a southern part of a country, which may throw up some new challenges, which are typically more attuned to culture and adaptability and stuff like that.
So here is it, Vikram. You actually said a question saying that he may not have had the experience of having worked in the southern part of India, where there's a different culture, language. Now, having said that, so what is that competence you are looking at? Some kind of a cultural sensitivity, right? cultural sensitivity, in terms of adaptability. So you can actually look at some kind of a situation, if we were to describe, where he really had to adapt. Do you like traveling? Did you travel anywhere? Not necessarily that he was posted. So for example, if you had to travel, what kind of place did you travel then? Okay, then the food out there, so how did you cope with it? What is that you did with it? So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, as per the definition of a competency, this competency, if you have, it's an underlying characteristic. It can be demonstrated or it can show up in different situations. Not necessary that it has to be a particular situation. Are you with me, Vikram? What I'm trying to say?
The only difference is that if you travel once in a while to a certain catchment for work, but essentially you are based out of a different place.
Right.
That's a different ball game. But going there, setting up the place, being able to acclimatize and stuff like that, that is different.
So what is that you need in terms of adaptability? It could be a place or anything. So look out for some situation, something in his career, maybe not even in his college. So what I'm wanting to convey is, when you have a competency which may not be actually at a surface level, it could be very deep down dormant, not used it. Okay, so we can actually see, hey, yes, he has somewhere deep down that adaptability competency.
Right.
Because you will notice that some people who don't have that adaptability competence, they're very difficult to work with them. They're not at all adaptable with new people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So just let us look at few questions which have also. Some of the questions, just indicators, lead questions. Have you ever lived or worked in a place different from your hometown? Which gives you a kind of a, right? In your last position, give me some examples of jobs you were asked that were not part of the original job description. Just trying to test out if you was ready to do something else. Detail a unique produce or a product as if I were a potential customer. Or tell me about an unusual situation you had to handle in your last current position. Or what radical changes took place at your last job that affected your role in the organization. Say, for example, in this previous organization, there was some kind of a restructuring or something has happened, or a merger or an acquisition. So obviously everything changes. So how did he adapt to that? Tell me about a situation where you had to handle several things at one time. So these are just some leading questions which will help you to understand, hey, testing a person or evaluating a person as to how easy adaptable, right? So you can actually probe and get more information. Yes, perseverance becomes really very, very key. What is perseverance? Pursues, let me just put this aside. Okay, pursues established work schedule and goals tirelessly and to a successful end despite any situational obstacles, willing to go the distance every time. And some of the indicators are: defines problem, analyzes possible solutions, selects a plan of attack and resolves dilemma, or provides a credible example of working through a tough problem by fully utilizing all the resources at hand, more focusing on resources. Then persistent in answering all cues, even if thrown a curveball, in the sense that he actually doesn't he goes out of his way to do achieve his objective. Willingness to positively attack problems directly rather than working around them. Proven ability to function well in a stressful situation or environment. Believes in treating all goals and objectives as if they were the utmost important. Approximately flexible but persistent in obtaining desired results. Does not bend to surrounding negativity, can bounce back readily from adversity, does not tend to become tunnel vision or overly hard-headed. So these are some of the indicators. So what could be some of the questions to evaluate perseverance as a competence? Yeah, anybody? It helps you to, so this is, as I said, this is a skill. So the more you keep practicing and the more you keep asking questions, you will learn too. Anybody? How will you frame your question here? You want to check for perseverance. You want to check. You can assume any role and then ask. It could be top leadership, or it could be middle level. It could be lower level. But here is a competency which is perseverance.
So
kind of, yeah.
Some questions could be, so Nirmala, how do you look at failures, and can we talk about a couple of incidents in your career where you've really faced failures and also bounced back?
Vikram, yeah. One, I will help you to reframe this question in the sense, A, multiple questions in it, a lot of sentence in it. Questions have to be simple because the person, I have to be understood very clearly, right? What you are saying is, please tell me a situation where was a low point or you are not able to achieve what you wanted to. How did you go about it? Or you saw a failure or you did not succeed in something. So how did you go about it?
What was your answer?
That low point, okay? But if you start saying that, you said that, what was that statement you made in the beginning? How did you start the question?
My question was, how do you perceive failure? As in, what's your view about failure?
So my views about failure, I will be very philosophical. I'll come out with all those things and spend 5 or 10 minutes on that. But is that going to be will it help you to understand the person? Will it? No, it won't. It will only give you a point of view. You getting me? No?
Some people say, and those point of view may be relevant. For example, some people say, I've never been a failure, or I never allow failure to touch me, right? Which means that the person is not open to accepting that failures are part of building block for success, right? Yeah. And failure teaches you more than success, for example, right? So maybe the person is very egoistic, may not be able to be a good team player, and will only achieve for success no matter what is the cost. May use other means also to achieve success. Maybe one of the things I can take it out from here. If the person says, I've never failed in my life, right? And I actually want somebody who has failed.
Yeah. 1 second, Vikram. So you are saying one question which, this is for everybody here. Did you fail any time? No, I did not fail. So this is a no question. This is a negative question. This is a very leading question. Okay, Vikram? Saying that did you fail or did you face any failure? It's a leading question. Okay? So I'm not asking. So I'm saying, hey.
Nirmala,
yeah.
If I am able to relate it, what you exactly want out of this is, any event wherein, suppose this, assuming this is in the head of HR position, and there are situations where there are budget constraints and there are priorities set.
Absolutely.
As an HR head, I need to drive an agenda which will help me achieving the Great Place to Work certification, and my CFO and my CMD is not aligning to it. How frequently I do visit and put it across to sail through that budget, even after budgetary constraint, can be one of such questions to.
Yeah. So rather than failure, you can always ask, because when in behaviors, we are not only asking for a high point, we are also asking for a low point. Low point itself is a kind of a not having really achieved success there or something, a low point. So rather than, because that failure word is looked upon or kind of perceived upon as a negative kind of a behavior. Okay. So therefore, you can always put it in a low point. Yeah.
I'm saying being resilient is something what we can reframe and then ask about these questions.
Yeah. So how are you able to tell us about a low point in your recent past? Any low point? Then you will say, yeah, this is what happened. Or you can focus upon, okay, as an HR head, you must have actually done a lot of employee satisfaction surveys or great places. So tell me about your experience, because you always start with a very broad question, so that it helps him to give or narrate a lot of situations, or he will be able to tell you a lot of successes or failures also, anything. Okay. And then from there, take one by one and start asking him.
So Nimla, was my question relevant?
No. So this question where you said straight away, tell me, so you can reframe it. what happens, it helps the, rather than when I say failure, I'm pushed back. Ultimately, what do you want as a interviewer? You want him to tell everything about himself, right? As open as possible, and the situation as realistic as possible. So you don't want, so typically what happens, the interviewers feel that the behavior event interviewing situation, they can actually fab. But let me tell you, after having done probably thousands of interviews, they can't fab. I'll tell you why. You are asking him, how much can you fab? One situation? Two situations? How much can he start thinking and talking? Like, for example, I don't want to draw parallels, but Monali, she hasn't. So she has to keep thinking. So you will stop and you will pause. But here you are, you say, okay. Then you're also looking at his body language. You're also looking everything. How is he? Because as you know, that body speaks much more than the words. Okay. So you say, okay, then what did you do? How did you feel? Then what happened? So you're all the time, probing and prodding him. So where is the scope of one situation he will do? Two situations. Then, so therefore, but when you are actually coding this entire thing, because after getting the information, you prefer, I like to record them. Then you go back and start coding it, and you are seeing how are the behaviors, were they consistent or just one behavior somewhere. So I will say, hey, this is just one behavior on a rating scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, adaptability just a fluke. I'll say 2. You getting me? So that's how we then start coding. Okay.
Ma'am, I had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have just framed it for a recruiter, for a senior recruiter who is, in a stressful, for stressful situation. The 5th point I have taken. So I have structured it like when there is a situation that you don't get relevant CVs after working for a month or so, and we have to close the position within next 5 days. How do you handle it? So is this the right framing of the question?
So you are asking your recruiter, saying that, if you are not, if you are not able to close, you are not getting CVs and you have to close the position, what will you do? Is that so?
Yes.
So if your purpose is to give us stress, see, there are various kinds of interviews, right? If your purpose is to give a stress interview, you could ask such questions which are so hypothetical. Like, for example, hey, how did you come? Climbing stairs? Okay. What was the number of stairs in that, staircase? Okay. So the purpose of an interview, you have to actually understand what is the purpose of my interview. Okay. Now I want to know, are you trying to test the stress by asking that hypothetical question? What is the intent of asking that question?
Yes. So I want to understand how is she going to handle, or he's going to handle the situation, whether he is going to, give me a solution that, okay, I'm going to try out this, or,
exactly.
Is it perseverance, or is it, yeah.
So you are saying, is this person exploring all options? That is important, right? Is she going to explore all alternatives? Or is she going to just look at one option and say, I'm not able to do it and get stressed? So ask her to give a situation where she had the opportunity of exploring a lot of options and she could come to a solution. Ask her to give you an instance where she had to deal with a problem and how did she go about, how did she look at all the alternatives she had. Because in your place, you're asking, hey, is this person just going through a placement, or she will become creative and innovative by looking at several options, exploring them. That is what you want to look at. Right. And if the person does not have that competency, then what will she do? She'll only look at a placement or a walk-ins and she'll say, hey, I'm not able to get it. She'll be stressed.
Right. Ma'am, also I had a question that whether it is right to, give a very much open, usually what we do is give me an instance in your wherever in your experience that you have handled, such a situation. So this is a very broad way wherein you are asking the candidate to think a lot and give one example wherein it finds difficult. Now, for example, when Vikram and Siddharth were interviewing, I was, when did I have this situation? So that was going back and taking time. And which situation should I tell? for an maybe it is difficult sometimes, to which situation to come to. So is it good to give him and, a little bit specific, parameters?
No. So typically you have the career history or the CV where they have worked and what kind of achievements they have done, right? You have it in front of you. And you also have the list of competencies. So typically you start asking about each and every competency because you want to ensure that somewhere down the line, there have been situations where he has actually either demonstrated or not demonstrated, because ultimately what you want to select or reject on a rating scale, and you want to see whether this competencies behavior has been demonstrated in certain, not just one-off instances. If it is one-off instances, it is not a consistent pattern in him. So you have to, it takes time. It is not a 15 minutes interview or a half an hour interview. You have to at least take 2 to 3 hours in probing further and narrowing down so that you are for sure saying that yes, he is good. Right? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, Leena. Yes, Leena.
You initially mentioned that, you discuss the competence going to be assessing in that the kind of competency you're going to assess, and of course Vikram and others also made it upfront. Okay, they have. But don't you think? I mean, in my opinion, I'm just asking. I could be wrong, but don't you think the person will orient their answers towards the competency that you're looking for? Would that not?
Yes, absolutely. That is the kind of a feeling we all have. Now just think about it. Vikram had asked questions, Nikhil had asked questions, Siddharth had asked questions. Now, those questions are mostly knowledge and skill, which are very, very, technical, and you can answer them. But no, you can ask them and you can respond to them. Now, what happens when, what you said was, when he is actually talking about situations, how many situations can he start flipping, in the sense, faking?
Correct.
One situation. Okay, then you are looking closely at him, documenting everything. 2 situations, because you are narrowing down. Okay, then so you are talking to him. Oh, how did you feel? Then what happened? Because ultimately it is the underlying, because knowledge and skill are just the tip of the iceberg, above the water, easily tested. But what can't be easily tested immediately with a question is the underlying characteristics, those traits, those motives. Those are the things which you want, right? Like, for example, many times in a BPOs, you select them for knowledge and skill is very good, and then you bring them on board. And after 3 months, you will see that the best of people who are very good, who have passed those knowledge tests and skill tests, have actually attrited. And then they'll say, hey, these people were very good, but they've actually, exited from the system. Why? Because probably they did not like the job, they did not like the environment, they did not like the culture. So did we do all that? Did we check first on those things? Those are important, right? Having qualified for certain things, those are also very important. Others, you are adding to those numbers. You will find that in the funnel, your accepted offers to, or accepted offers to rejected are so much. The yield is so little. Actually, people who have joined will be just 5% of the number of offers you have given. So you need to actually do these things right at the beginning when you are doing that interview. So the HR interview is actually for what? For assessing the competencies. You are not for assessing technical. For the technical competencies, you have to, because you are not a technical expert, you have to have the technical guy who will evaluate you. That's fundamental, that's important. That's where you will see that first it is the hiring manager who will do the technical round. Having satisfied that yes, he is good, then it is the HR person who will actually say, hey, does he have those key critical competencies or not? And then say hire or reject. Okay.
So do you suggest we ask open-ended questions for any achievement that the person has done, and then funnel it down to assess, the behaviors and attitudes associated with the
Absolutely, you should check on all achievements in the sense that start talking about his achievements in the sense what are those achievements. Then narrow down to critical achievement. What is it? How did he feel about what? Not only achievements, you should also talk about the low points. Those are important. And what are some of the things he learned? What were the things actually? That's simple. Yeah, the learnings. So is he a kind who actually learned from his mistakes, or does he feel bad about it? Right. We'll look at one more. People skills. We always say communication is very, very important, right? And how do we communicate both writing, listening, our oral communication, etc. What are some of the questions we can ask? I want other participants also like Surichi, etc. to participate and make it interactive so that you learn a little more. This will be the last competency. Yeah. How do we actually assess? Communication is both a skill and also a competence, behavioral competence.
If I can.
Yes, sir. Yes, Vikram.
Siddharth here.
Siddharth. Okay, sorry, Siddharth. Yeah.
Sure. So I think one of the communication skills and one aspect of it, what I understand, is persuasion, right? And how do you express that? So if you can, maybe one specific example we can ask is if you can give me an instance where you had to persuade your management to take a decision based on inputs and insights given by you. Can you give us an instance of how did you go about it?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else?
We can also ask a question like if a manager has got a non-performer in his team and how he persuade him or motivate him to perform better, like how he counseled him, how he mentored him.
Yeah, so it's important again to say that, hey, can you give me an instance where you had a non-performer, okay? Where you had a non-performer and how did you go about, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So here is it. Let me stop sharing and I want to actually talk to all of you. Yeah. So in behavioral event interviewing and competency-based interviewing, it's more important that you actually ask, the way you frame your questions is very, very important. And the way you elicit those responses, and most of them related to situations and past behavior. Okay. Having said that, if you want help in terms of a list of questions for various competencies, I could send to Vilma some inputs so that you all could actually gain from that. Okay. Can I have your videos on so that this is the last session so that we can actually, right? Also, if anybody has any, we could spend about 5 minutes or 10 minutes in clarifying certain doubts because this is the last session. Yeah. Any doubts?
How can we understand like attitude of the candidate? Like someone has a very aggressive attitude. So how to judge that in the interview? We often get to know when the person has joined that he fights or he argues a lot. How to judge that behavior?
So Surichi, it's a very, very broad question as to, how. First of all, you have to be very specific in terms of, hey, what does the role actually entail? What are the competencies which are required? Like, for example, a salesperson will also need a very aggressive attitude. What do you say, Vikram?
But negative attitude is a problem. Like,
so for example, you spoke about people skill. Now,
yeah.
Typically, all HR roles would be people skill. Maybe training is one role, right? So a question like, what makes you angry? It can open a lot of doors. I'm not getting into it. This has helped me in the past, because in an interview, nobody expects a question like this to be asked as to what makes me angry. And that can lead to multiple emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically we ask these questions like, give me some instances when you think you were, you lost your cool. So then he'll begin to think, because he can't say, no, I never lost my cool. So in your work situation, give me some instances where you had to lose your cool. They'll say, okay, what was the situation like? What happened? What made you lose your cool? So you want to actually unearth what was the reason behind losing his cool. So you get to know the person a little more than just at the surface level. So it's just a rephrasing of the questions, right? Okay. Everybody is very quiet. Yes, Nikhil?
So I was just relating to what Suruchi asked in terms of doing that assessment. We being a microfinance, but we still do this Gallup assessment, at least for VP and above employees who joined us. Even though it may not be an eliminating tool, but it gives us a lot of perspective about the leadership style. Right. Like I'll cite an example. One of our CEO of a group company, his empathy was lowest. It was at the rank of 35. So while we onboarded him, we also realized that there will be a lot of people issues and he won't be empathetic. And that the Gallup helped us, and we saw that in the first 2 quarters itself, there were a lot of attrition, even though there was humanitarian ground of maternity and other things. He was very direct. He never used to be considerate about it.
Okay.
So that helped us. Then we coached him on those aspects. While we understood that that's an area where we need to work upon on it. So that's one of the way how you can evaluate in terms of the attitude of a person. There are tools like Thomas profiling is also one of the thing how you can do the assessment. Yeah, so that's more to do what Suruchi asked, but that is what we already practice.
Because we typically, most of the organizations today want to see a fit. So they do a kind of a psychometric test. It could be a disc profiling. Okay. It could also be an MBTI. Disc is very expensive though. You could also do a FireOB, right? In fact, FireOB scores, I was shading them independently and you could see what amount of information comes out from them. Like for example, the amount of influence or the amount of control or the amount of affection a person needs, and also amount and all these dimensions a person expresses. If it is low, medium, high, what kind of conflicts happen. Okay, so you will clearly see them. So organizations, but don't take decisions solely on psychometrics. They actually then go through a BEI, a competency-based interviewing, and then it doesn't happen just 1 hour or 2 hours. You want to really give them at least about 2 to 3 hours, want to spend more time. And if I'm not happy, I will again ask them to come back. A lot more. I want to know more about, more about the situations. How did he handle? How did he go about? It's only then I go back, collect all the information and then code them. If there is a variance between the psychometric results and the scoring and the data I'm getting, then I'm not going to take a decision. Again, I want to clarify. Because here is a very good candidate and I see that he's very good and knowledge. So I want to clarify a few points on whatever the variance scores are. So that's how we take a decision there. Okay.
Can we also discuss the activity which we got Fero and that Belbin? Because
I was just mentioning about, in fact, I think you just sent it, right? So we would be talking about it individually. We'll do a Zoom call, okay? Maybe for 10 minutes or 15 minutes individually.
But a generic understanding, like how to analyze it.
This questionnaire FireOB, if you have noticed, there are a set of questions, right? Okay. Now, when you have scored them, it gives you a scoring on 2 dimensions. One is expressed and the other is wanted. That means need. And one is expressed. Okay. Having said that, and these 2 dimensions on what factors? Inclusion. What is inclusion? Inclusion means I want to be included in a team. I want to be, a part of the gang, whether it's in an organization or whether it's in a personal, everything. So this inclusion is expressed, means I will go, I want to be a team. Or also I want other people to include me in their team. For example, there is an instance where I am not included in a team. Okay, but my need is very high. Then what happens? I gave you an instance that my need for inclusion is very high. Okay, my need for inclusion is very high, but I do not get that inclusion. Then there is a conflict. So that behavior has to be somewhere displaced. Okay, likewise, control. I have a high need for control. I want to control, in the sense, influence everything, be at the center stage, taking decisions. Okay, need. But what I get, I'm not having a very good position level in my organization, or I'm not able to be in a position of control there. Then I will displace that at home by controlling others. Okay? Affection. My need for affection may be very high, but I don't get that affection. So these are things which happen, and with your scores, we would be able to analyze where you are, and typically then how should you improve yourself, because it hampers your interpersonal effectiveness. Okay. Like for example, in relevant roles, I've seen somebody is a finisher, somebody is a planter. I get some of them. Like for example, it's okay if I'm going to, Murtaza is a finisher. Okay, and finisher in the sense, what does it mean? And it also reflected in the group work he did in the moon landing. You know, he was talking about, hey, we have only this much time. We have to finish that work. Okay, and there are some scores which are reflecting even with the fire OB. So I would actually take up this explaining the scores and also specific gaps in your scores, and ask for data, whether why is it like that, and maybe help you in a way saying that this is what you could do, increase your score. All right, because some have got some extreme scores and some have got some low scores as well. All right, Vikram, you have anything to say?
I'm all good.
You're all good. Yeah, so we will sum it up saying that, hey, we were talking about the BEIs and the competency-based interviews. BEI is being used as a tool for a competency-based interview, because today, in order to actually be more efficient, effective, you are listing out the competencies, and through a behavioral event interview, you are wanting to, I'm so sorry, you are wanting to do the hiring, selection, and understand actually what are the kind of behaviors which are required for the efficiency or the effectiveness of this role, and ensure that these are demonstrated in this candidate in his past situations. Okay, so that's how BIs and the CBI become a very good predictor of performance. Okay, guys, and if you want any information more to do with this, please feel free. And I think we have a lot of use.
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yeah, we have a lot of use cases also. Yes.
I want to know one thing. Like, suppose we found that the existing employee of the organization lacks in the business acumen. So, what type of trainings or what things we should plan? Like, what type of training models for any, not only business acumen, for anything? Like, we found that person is not doing good in that field. So, what type of training we should plan? So,
first of all, will you start planning training? So you will have to look at individual gaps and then group gaps and level, because typically what happens, what we do, we actually do a training need analysis, during the appraisal, get some inputs from the appraisal, then do the bucketization, and then we look at, hey, so some set of people in the same level, they need business acumen. Then we start giving them some training in the area of strategy, business acumen, understanding business, because it's a total module itself. It could be, a e-learning model, or both, a mix of both classroom and e-learning model in terms of business acumen, which is more to understand with, the industry, the trend, like Vikram was mentioning about the VUCA world. Okay, in today's competitive times, you need to understand the dynamic market forces, because many times, even an HR person at a middle and even at top level, if I do not understand what is the kind of a strategy of the organization, what kind of a business, what kind of an industry, where is my market positioning, what is my value discipline, who are my external stakeholders, what are the competitive forces which are impacting, who are my competitors, and how will you actually then understand the business? So you could have an advantage over business acumen, right? How do you develop that? It is a whole lot of these things.
Right.
Okay. Yes, guys. Yes, Vikram, you want to add and you want to kind of sum up some things?
No, so I believe this is the last session of this
Competency mapping. Yeah, yeah.
So, Vilma, the question is for you. Certificate or completion.
Yeah, I guess there is a project to be done.
I'll tell you. First of all, let me thank you all of you for being so nice and really interactive. I really felt nice, the group was very cohesive in terms of interacting, and participating. So we really enjoyed. And now after this program, we'll be sending you a mail with the project guidelines and a set of projects. So there would be 3-4 projects. You can choose any one of them of your choice. And you also have the option to either do it individually or to do it in a group. So if you can decide your group by talking to each other and see if it can be done in group or it can be done individually, which will approximately take 45 to 60 days to complete the project. Right. So 45 to 60 days would be like from now onward for February, March. By end of April, you should be able to complete. So once that is done, you will be given grades based on your project, which will be evaluated by our internal team, and a recognition certificate on certified competency mapping and assessment would be given. And in case you're not able to submit your project for whatsoever the reason, then you will only get your participation certificate. So either way, you're going to get the certificate with grades or without the grades.
So Vilma, can the completion certificate be given? I'm telling you, I'm saying
participation certificate. Yes, that will be sending you. Yes.
I have to kind of submit.
Yes. That we already discussed earlier. Yeah. So we'll be sharing the participation certificate, and once you complete the project, which will be after 45-60 days, then you get your recognition certificate with grades.
So my query is, instead of waiting for the 60 days, because April will be starting our PMS process, if we complete it beforehand and we submit it, and in case the evaluation can be done on a real-time basis, and if we can be intimated about that, about the certification as well, that will be really great.
Of course, that is the max time,
Okay, time frame.
You can do within the time frame also.
No worries. Got it.
So once you do it, immediately.
As earliest as possible, I guess, right, Vilma?
Yeah,
but yes, that's the outer limit.
Lot of people have done their entire course, within 15 to 20 days, right? Parallelly 3 programs at a time.
Okay.
What is the time commitment for this?
Yeah. How you can space your time, that is entirely dependent on you.
Okay, but in ours, is there something we can estimate?
45 to 60 days is a pretty good, in a relaxed format, you can complete your project, right?
Sure.
So we don't want to stress you, take your time and then you can do it, right?
Sure.
Okay, since now we'll be closing for the day, so we would like to have a quick feedback from you all regarding the entire learning journey of this 4 sessions with regard to the program course, to the content, the coverage, the delivery, and the entire process itself.
And also suggestions for improvement.
Suggestions, So we would look at a very candid feedback, from all of you. Yes, Vikram?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Vikram would be wondering why is Vilma targeting me only? Huh?
Because he's very vocal, That's the reason.
Or something like that. Will you be sharing some kind of a link for us to, kind of go and give the feedback?
Yes. We'll be sending a mail.
Sure.
So that will have a format, and you can give your feedback on that.
Sure. Great. So, Vilma, I would just like to say that
or some suggestions for improvement in the coverage of the program, etc.
So just keep, I'll be very much interested in case if you can keep in your mailing list, and if you have relevant, talk shows or programs and stuff like that coming up, just kind of, I'll be very happy to be in your mailing list. And for me personally, it was absolutely great 4 Sundays invested and I'm much better than what I was 4 Sundays back. Thanks to Nirmala, and thanks to all the colleagues and classmates here for enriching the session. I've been talking about it with my colleagues, saying that just in case if you can take out time, do this course. It'll benefit you in your career. I personally wish I would have done this course some 15 years back or 10 years back, but I was more focused on my core skill, which is training. But yeah, this is something which really complements and really helps me to understand the overall picture of where things fit. So yeah, absolutely great. Thanks.
But also, Vikram, I think you kept the group alive. In spite of the virtual sessions, you kept it very active and very alive. That's important.
It's a very vibrant.
You are a live wire, I must say.
No, it's a very vibrant group. Thanks. And look forward to cross paths again, in some other assignment, really.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. A big thank you to all of you, and have a great career. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All the best, everyone.
Thank you.
so
Same
much.
to you.
Bye-bye.
Same to you. Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.